Good day. So, today we are going to do something a little different. We're stepping away from those really broad, sweeping timelines of the Second World War.
Right, the kind that cover years in a single breath.
Exactly. And instead, we're going to zoom in with almost forensic precision on a very specific, incredibly volatile 60-day window.
A spring of upheaval.
Yeah, March and April of 1941. It's a period that, well, it often gets glossed over in general histories.
Oh, absolutely. It's usually just sandwiched right between the fall of France in 1940 and then the massive invasion of the Soviet Union in June of 41.
But I would argue, and I think our analysis of the source material today really backs this up, that these 2 months are the fulcrum upon which the entire conflict pivots.
It's the moment it really changes.
Right. It stops being just a European containment issue and explodes into a truly global conflagration.
So our thesis for this deep dive into the source material is pretty straightforward. In March and April 1941, we're seeing the absolute apex of Axis diplomatic and military coordination.
But simultaneously, we are witnessing the exact moments they sow the seeds that would eventually destroy them.
Yeah, diplomacy fails, alliances literally shift overnight, and the battlefield expands massively into the Balkans, North Africa, and the high seas.
So let's set the board for everyone. It's March 1st, 1941. Europe is deep under the shadow of the Axis. Britain stands completely isolated.
And Hitler is obsessed with basically one thing at this moment.
Securing his southern flank.
Right. He already knows he's going to invade Russia. Operation Barbarossa is deep in the planning stages, but he absolutely cannot risk a hostile presence in the Balkans.
Because of the oil, right?
Exactly, the Romanian oil fields at Plesti. That fuel is the lifeblood of his war machine, so he desperately needs stability in Southeastern Europe before he turns east.
And on March 1st, he actually seems to achieve this without firing a single shot.
Yeah, a total diplomatic victory. In Vienna, the Prime Minister of Bulgaria signs the Tripartite Pact.
Which is just a masterstroke of German coercion.
Right.
I mean, King Boris III of Bulgaria was desperate to stay neutral.
But with the German army literally massed on the Danube right at his border, he really had no choice.
And the geographic significance of this is massive. By joining the Axis, Bulgaria essentially opens the front door to the Balkans.
Right. German troops immediately cross the Danube. They pour right into Bulgarian territory.
If you look at a map, you can immediately see why this was an absolute nightmare for the British. Bulgaria sits directly on top of Greece.
So the German war machine is now parked right on the Greek border, completely ready to strike south to help out their struggling Italian allies.
Yeah, a bloodless conquest that exerts just immense pressure on their whole region.
But, while the Axis is winning on the map in Eastern Europe, a totally different kind of victory is being forged across the Atlantic.
Right. We have to shift our gaze over to Washington, D.C. and look at March 11th, 1941.
A monumental day.
This is the day President Roosevelt signs the Lend-Lease Act. Now, we hear that term a lot, but we need to unpack why it was so revolutionary. If you're enjoying this video, please watch it until the end. It helps the channel a lot and encourages us to continue our work.
Yeah, so up until this exact moment, the United States was tightly bound by neutrality acts. Britain had to pay actual cash for every single bullet, every bandage they bought from America.
Cash and carry.
Exactly. And by March 1941, the British Treasury was completely empty. I mean, they were literally stripping gold reserves from the Bank of England to pay for aircraft.
They're bankrupt.
Totally. If the U.S. hadn't stepped in right then, the British war effort would have collapsed. Not from a lack of willpower, but just a literal lack of currency.
And that's where Lend-Lease changes the entire legal framework. It allowed the president to lend, lease, or otherwise dispose of defense articles to any government whose defense he deemed vital to the United States.
Which is just a brilliant piece of legal fiction when you think about it.
Oh, absolutely. You don't lend a tank expecting it to be returned after it's been blown to pieces in the desert.
Right. It was basically a loophole to bypass those neutrality laws and funnel billions of dollars of American industrial capacity directly into the fight.
It marked the end of American neutrality in everything but name. The U.S. became the arsenal of democracy.
And that is the exact moment the economic weight of the war shifts decisively against the Axis, even if they aren't feeling it on the physical battlefield quite yet.
Because on the battlefield, things were heating up. Let's move from Washington over to the burning sands of North Africa.
Yes, the Desert War.
While the diplomats are signing papers, the very nature of desert warfare is about to change forever. The Italians had been failing pretty miserably in North Africa.
The British had pushed them way back deep into Libya, basically capturing the whole Cyrenaica region.
So Hitler, who is determined not to let Mussolini fall, sends in a blocking force, the Deutsches Afrika Korps.
Under the command of General Erwin Rommel.
Right. Rommel actually arrived in Tripoli in February, but mid-March is when he really makes his mark.
Because his explicit orders were just to hold the line, play defense.
And he completely ignored them.
Totally ignored them. On March 24th, Rommel launches his first major offensive.
And this is really the brutal introduction of modern, mobile, armored warfare to the desert environment. He strikes at El Agala and just doesn't stop.
The British were completely caught off guard, and part of that is because they had fatally weakened their desert forces to send troops over to defend Greece.
A huge error of overextension.
It was. Rommel recaptures Cyrenaica in just a matter of weeks, sending the British reeling all the way back toward the Egyptian border.
Setting up that famous seesaw dynamic of the North African campaign. But it also proved something terrifying to the Allies. The Germans could project real power across the Mediterranean,
threatening the Suez Canal and Britain's entire link to its empire in the east.
But despite all that action, the most dramatic political event of the spring, maybe the most cinematic moment of the whole year, takes place back in the Balkans.
We have to talk about Yugoslavia.
Yes, late March. Following that capitulation of Bulgaria we mentioned, the pressure on Yugoslavia to join the Axis became just unbearable.
They were surrounded on almost all sides by Axis powers or their puppet states. The Yugoslav regent, Prince Paul, felt he had literally no alternative left.
So on March 25th, the Yugoslav government goes to Vienna and signs the Tripartite Pact. They formally join the Axis.
It looked like just another bloodless victory for Hitler. The map was almost perfectly complete.
But the people of Yugoslavia had a very different opinion about this. The reaction in Belgrade was explosive.
The Serbian military, the Orthodox Church, the general public, they viewed the pact as a surrender of their national soul.
So just 2 days later, on March 27th, a group of Air Force officers launch a military coup. They overthrow the pro-Axis regency, place the young King Peter II on the throne, and completely repudiate the alliance with Germany.
The scenes in the streets of Belgrade were incredible. You had thousands of people marching, supported by these massive popular protests, chanting these slogans that still resonate today.
Right. Better war than pact. Better grave than slave.
Think about the immense weight of that choice. The Yugoslav people knew exactly what had happened to Poland and France, but they actively chose the likelihood of total destruction over the safety of collaboration.
It was a stunning moral rejection. And Hitler's reaction was absolutely apoplectic.
He viewed the coup as a deeply personal betrayal. On that exact same day, March 27th, he issued Directive 25.
Ordering the immediate invasion of Yugoslavia and Greece, he stated Yugoslavia had to be destroyed militarily and as a national state.
He was so furious he was willing to officially postpone Operation Barbarossa, the invasion of Russia, just to crush them first.
Now, while all this fury is building up in Berlin, an incredibly decisive encounter is taking place at sea.
The Mediterranean is getting active.
Because to support the Greeks, Britain was shipping tens of thousands of soldiers from North Africa over to Greece. And that convoy route was highly vulnerable to the Italian Navy.
The Regia Marina.
Right. On March 27th, the Italian fleet sorts out to intercept these convoys, which leads directly to the Battle of Cape Matapan.
And this battle is crucial not just for who won, but exactly how they won it. It was a massive triumph of intelligence and technology.
Bletchley Park, right.
Exactly. British cryptanalysts had broken the Italian naval codes. So Admiral Cunningham, who was commanding the British Mediterranean fleet, knew exactly when and where the Italians were coming.
Plus, the British ships were equipped with radar, and the Italians were not, which makes all the difference in a night engagement.
A huge difference. The climax happens on the night of March 28th to the 29th. The British battleships managed to close within about 3,500 yards of the Italian heavy cruisers in total darkness.
3,500 yards for a battleship is basically point-blank range.
It is. The Italians had absolutely no idea the enemy was even there until the British searchlights snapped on and the 15-inch guns opened fire.
It was a slaughter. 3 Italian heavy cruisers and 2 destroyers were sunk. Over 2,000 Italian sailors were lost, compared to just 3 British aircrew.
And strategically, this completely neutralized the Italian Navy. It meant they couldn't interfere with upcoming British troop movements in Greece.
But unfortunately for the Allies, naval supremacy could not stop the avalanche that was coming on land.
No, it couldn't.
On April 6th, the hammer finally falls. Germany launches Operation Merida, which is the simultaneous dual invasion of Yugoslavia and Greece.
And the brutality was just immediate. Hitler ordered the ruthless terror bombing of Belgrade.
The Luftwaffe flew hundreds of sorties, deliberately targeting the city center to paralyze the government and punish the civilian population for the coup.
Thousands died in the rubble. And on the ground, the overwhelming speed of the blitzkrieg in that rugged Balkan terrain was terrifying.
They adapted their armored columns to those narrow mountain passes so quickly, and Yugoslavia, which was already a patchwork nation with deep internal ethnic tensions, just crumbled.
The German army exploited those internal divisions expertly. In fact, on April 10th, this is even before the fighting had officially ended, they oversaw the dismantling of the country.
Right, the creation of the independent state.
They established this puppet state under the command of the fascist Ustasha movement, completely aligned with Germany and Italy.
It wasn't just a military occupation, it was the deliberate fragmentation of a nation.
Setting off a brutal civil war and ethnic cleansing that would horrify the world.
So Yugoslavia falls incredibly fast. The Yugoslav army capitulates on April 17th, just 11 days of fighting to conquer and divide the country.
In 11 days, it's staggering.
But let's actually pause the tragedy in the Balkans for just a second to look back at North Africa, because mid-April brings another critical turning point there.
Back to the desert.
April 11th. Rommel is pushing hard toward Egypt, but he runs into a massive strategic problem. He had bypassed a port city called Tobruk.
And inside Tobruk was a really determined garrison of Commonwealth troops, Australians, British, Polish, and Indian soldiers.
Rommel tried to take it quickly off the march, but he was repulsed. And so, the siege of Tobruk begins.
And we have to emphasize why this matters so much. It's all about logistics.
As long as the Allies held that port, Rommel couldn't use its harbor to supply his army.
He had to truck all his fuel, all his water, everything across hundreds of miles of desert from Tripoli.
It was a massive logistical chokehold. The defenders, the Rats of Tobruk, as they proudly called themselves, held out. They denied Rommel that crucial supply line,
Proving that the invincible German war machine could actually be stalled if you just cut its logistical tail.
Now, right in the midst of all this kinetic violence in Europe and Africa, a really bizarre piece of diplomacy happens on the other side of the world on April 13th.
The Soviet-Japanese Neutrality Pact.
Yes, the Soviet Union and Imperial Japan sign a 5-year non-aggression treaty, which, on the surface, seems totally counterintuitive.
Right, because Germany, Japan's closest ally, is gearing up to attack Russia, so why would Stalin sign this?
It was pure, cynical, realpolitik. Japan wanted to feel secure enough to turn its attention south, toward the resources of Southeast Asia.
They needed oil, and they didn't want the Soviets attacking their rear in Manchuria while they did it.
And Stalin, who absolutely knew war with Germany was looming in the West, needed to secure his eastern border so he could move his defenses and focus entirely on the European threat.
It's a huge move, because months later, it's exactly what allows fresh Siberian troops to appear outside Moscow to stop the Germans. Everything on this geopolitical chessboard is connected.
It really is. But bringing it back to Europe, the end of April brought the final collapse of resistance in the Balkans.
The defensive lines in Greece were broken.
Outflanked by German troops pouring in through Bulgaria and Yugoslavia, the British and Greek forces were just in a desperate retreat.
By April 23rd, Greece is forced to sign an armistice with Germany.
And on April 27th, German troops enter Athens. The birthplace of democracy falls under occupation,
Consolidating Nazi control over the entire region.
But there is a very specific, incredibly vivid detail from that day in Athens that I think captures the true spirit of the time.
The flag on the Acropolis.
Yes. The Germans raised the Nazi flag over the Acropolis, meant as this ultimate symbol of their total dominance.
But that night, 2 young Greek students, Manolis Glazos and Apostolos Santis, actually climbed the sheer rock face of the Acropolis.
They slipped right past the German guards and they tore the Nazi flag down.
Just an incredibly brave, symbolic act of resistance. It didn't change the military armistice, obviously, but it showed that while the territory was conquered, the spirit of resistance remained totally unbroken.
It electrified the population.
Absolutely.
So as April 1941 comes to a close, let's summarize where things stand. By the end of the month, the British are completely kicked off the continent again.
The Balkans are firmly under Axis control. Rommel is pushing hard in North Africa. Strategically, the Axis seems almost unstoppable.
But, and this is the crucial part, the timeline for the invasion of Russia has been significantly disrupted. The seeds of their overextension have been planted.
Exactly. The war has transformed from a stalemate in the West to this incredibly fluid, high-stakes conflict across the Mediterranean and Eastern Europe.
The German military had to divert precious resources. Tanks that were supposed to drive to Moscow were now hundreds of miles away in Greece, needing maintenance.
And they had to garrison this massive, hostile territory filled with people who hated them.
While behind the scenes, American industrial power was officially waking up and organizing those Lend-Lease convoys.
The dynamic had fundamentally shifted, even if it wasn't obvious in the daily headlines yet.
It's fascinating. And it leaves us with a really provocative thought to ponder, a massive what if for the listener to explore on their own.
Oh, I love this one.
What if that coup in Belgrade on March 27th had never happened?
Right. What if Yugoslavia had just quietly accepted the pact?
Hitler wouldn't have had to divert his forces south. The invasion of Greece would have been faster. Rommel might have been reinforced sooner. And the invasion of the Soviet Union wouldn't have been delayed by those crucial weeks.
How different would the entire 20th century look if not for that one choice to choose grave over slave?
It's something to mull over. It really highlights how these explosive 2 months changed the entire trajectory of the war.
Completely.
Well, that wraps up our deep dive into the spring of 1941. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to the channel, activate the notification bell to be notified about new videos, click the like button, and share the video with your colleagues, as this helps us maintain the channel. Thank you.